Vince Russo remains one of the most controversial figures in wrestling history. To some, he's a creative genius behind the Attitude Era's biggest moments. To others, he's the man responsible for WCW's downfall, thanks to his chaotic booking and baffling decisions. In this video, we take a closer look at Russo's time as WCW's head writer to determine if it was truly as disastrous as many remember. During the late 1990s, Vince Russo played a crucial role in revitalizing the WWF. As one of the lead writers, he worked alongside Vince McMahon to craft some of the most iconic storylines of the era. Meanwhile, WCW was crumbling. Desperate to turn things around, they hired Russo, hoping he could work the same magic he had in WWF. However, there was a key difference. In WWF, McMahon filtered out Russo's bad ideas. In WCW, that filter didn't exist. To Russo, sports entertainment was about larger-than-life characters and over-the-top drama, not actual wrestling. He especially disliked the cruiserweight division, which he saw as filler between the real superstars. Russo's disdain for cruiserweights was evident from the start. He believed fans didn't care about Japanese or Mexican wrestlers, so instead of allowing talents like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, and Psychosis to steal the show, he buried the division. He made Medusa the cruiserweight champion, forced Mexican wrestlers into embarrassing piñata on a pole matches, and turned the title into a joke. His right-hand man, Ed Ferrara, shared his views on sports entertainment. Together, they introduced Oklahoma, a tasteless parody of Jim Ross that mocked his Bell's palsy. To make matters worse, Ferrara even booked himself to win the Cruiserweight Championship. Under Russo's leadership, the message was clear. If you weren't American, you didn't matter. Russo was fixated on characters. Every wrestler had to have a gimmick, whether they needed one or not. Some of these ideas were laughably bad. Take Mike Awesome, for example. When he arrived from ECW, he was one of the hottest prospects in wrestling, a 300-pound wrecking machine who let his in-ring skills do the talking. At first, Russo got it right by giving Awesome the career killer gimmick, which suited his destructive style. But that didn't last. Soon, Awesome was repackaged as the Fat Chick Thriller, where he was seen feeding plus-sized women ham sandwiches backstage. When Russo got bored of that, he was turned into That 70s Guy, a gimmick that made no sense for his character. Despite his many missteps, Russo occasionally struck gold. One of his biggest successes in WCW was Lance Storm. Unlike the over-the-top characters Russo usually favored, Storm was a serious, no-nonsense technical wrestler, not an entertainer. Yet, under Russo's booking, Storm received the biggest push of his career. He was presented as a wrestling machine and quickly captured the US, Cruiserweight, and Hardcore championships all at once. Leading Team Canada, Storm even challenged for the WCW World title. Had WCW survived, he might have been one of its top stars. Russo could have established himself as a regular main event heel, and that's what makes him so frustrating, because every now and then, he proved that he was capable of doing the job. He recognized that WCW needed fresh superstars at every level and made an effort to address that issue. For years, the company had been dominated by the same old faces: Hogan, Flair, Nash, and the usual suspects. By 1999, WCW fans had grown tired of it. To his credit, Russo attempted to change things. He gave Booker T a well-deserved push to the top. Booker had been one of WCW's most promising stars for years, but always seemed stuck under the glass ceiling. However, in true Russo fashion, he couldn't just push Booker as himself. He briefly repackaged him as G.I. Bro. Thankfully, that gimmick didn't last long, and when Booker finally won the World Heavyweight Championship, it felt like a well-earned moment. Russo also focused on younger talent in the mid-card. The Natural-Born Thrillers, a group of young power plant graduates, were given the spotlight. Mark Jindrak, Sean O'Hare, and Chuck Palumbo, in particular, seemed poised to become future main eventers. Then there was Chronic. Russo rebranded Brian Clark and Brian Adams into an absolute wrecking crew. They brought back the monster tag team energy of the 1980s, steamrolling through jobbers like a modern-day version of the Road Warriors. But here's the problem. Nothing ever lasted. Russo's booking was pure chaos. The WCW World title changed hands so frequently that it became meaningless. During Russo's year as WCW's booker, the championship changed hands 19 times. No one held it long enough for it to feel important. Russo never let a storyline breathe. He didn't trust that a natural narrative could unfold, always injecting unnecessary drama. Maybe it all made sense inside his ADHD-fueled mind, but for fans watching at home, it was impossible to keep track of. Worse, Russo saw the World Championship as nothing more than a prop, a storytelling device rather than a prestigious title. That's how we ended up with David Arquette as WCW World Heavyweight Champion. On an episode of Thunder in April 2000, Eric Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett faced Chris Kanyon and David Arquette. The match had an absurd stipulation: whoever scored the pinfall would become WCW World Champion. This was all part of a cross-promotion for Ready to Rumble, a wrestling-themed comedy starring Arquette and featuring WCW talent. And just like that, David Arquette pinned Jeff Jarrett and became the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, Russo took things to another level. He put the belt on himself. He was completely obsessed with swerving the audience every week, and that's why the world title lost all meaning. One week, it was on a legend, the next on a mid-carder, then on a celebrity, and then on himself. Everything had to be unpredictable, even if it made no sense. By the late 90s, the internet had changed wrestling. Backstage drama wasn't a secret anymore. Shoot interviews and news sites had become popular among a certain type of fan. Russo was basically one of those fans himself. He believed that breaking kayfabe on TV, making every promo feel like a shoot, and exposing the business was what people wanted. But he misunderstood something crucial. The majority of wrestling fans weren't internet fans. They didn't know or care about backstage politics. They just wanted to watch a wrestling show. Even most internet fans preferred to keep behind-the-scenes drama separate from the on-screen storylines. And it wasn't just about blurring the line between real and fake. Half the time, it was impossible to tell what was actually happening. Nothing captured that better than Bash at the Beach 2000, the peak of this nonsense. It was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett versus Hulk Hogan for the world title, but instead of a real match, Jarrett just laid down and let Hogan pin him. Then Russo came out, cut a scathing shoot promo on Hogan, buried him live on TV, and stripped him of the title. The fans had no clue what they had just witnessed. Even now, with 25 years of hindsight, it's still hard to make sense of it. A well-timed swerve, a shocking title change, or even blurring the lines of reality can be powerful when used sparingly. But with Russo, it was every single week. It became exhausting to watch. So yes, Vince Russo's WCW was really that bad. But credit where it's due, he had some good ideas. He understood that WCW needed fresh stars. The problem was, he never focused. WCW needed structure, stability, and a long-term vision in late 1999. Instead, Russo gave it the exact opposite. And by the time he was gone, WCW was beyond saving.